So there's been a lot, and I do mean a lot, of talk and buzz about this film in particular. There's just been nothing but buzz and hype, and it looks like we're getting closer and closer to this film coming into fruition. And yeah, it looks like it's getting closer and closer to actually happening, well, again. So basically what I'm talking about is the strong possibility of another King Kong versus Godzilla film. Obviously, it was a big show-off film. It was a major film for both Godzilla and Kong because they hadn't been seen with, obviously, Kong since the 1945 film, and with Godzilla, he hadn't been seen since Raids Again. So obviously it was something to jumpstart those two titans' career by having them fight each other. And this obviously spiked Godzilla into having, his next big success with him fighting Mothra. Now I find it kind of funny because now both Godzilla and Kong are under Legendary Pictures, and ever since it was announced that both Kong and Godzilla were under Legendary Pictures, people had always kind of wondered, is there a possibility of another King Kong versus Godzilla film? And Legendary was like, nah, I don't think we want to do that. Yeah, it doesn't seem right. But now it seems like we're getting closer and closer to that film actually happening again, because there's just been so much talk about it. There's been so much hype from both the studio and, everything else. Obviously with the new Kong film coming out called Skull Island, you've got so much behind this film as it is. So I think it's a strong possibility that this could happen. Now, let's talk about... Now, obviously, nothing's been officially confirmed as far as I know. As far as I know, Legendary hasn't, officially announced it. They're still working on, Skull Island and Godzilla 2, so I sincerely doubt they'll announce, hey, we're gonna do a Godzilla versus King Kong movie, even though we haven't really, gone much farther with Godzilla 2 and, Skull Island. But then again, Marvel and DC kind of announce films ahead of schedule, so who knows? Maybe Sony... Excuse me, not Sony. Why do I keep wanting to say Sony? Damn it. What? Legendary might be like, screw it, we're doing a King Kong vs. Godzilla film. Here you go. Now, the big thing with this film, if it does happen, is that you gotta obviously alter Kong's size. You really gotta alter Kong's size here to a great level, or at least, to a level he can fight the legendary Godzilla, because that Godzilla is 300 feet tall. That's the biggest Godzilla's ever been. So, you really gotta make Kong big. And with Skull Island, it's supposed to be a prequel to Kong, but they have said that, is it a prequel to the Peter Jackson film, or the original 30s film? Or it could be, maybe they'll be like, screw it, we're not going to make it a prequel to their Kong, we're going to make it a prequel to our Kong movie. So, yeah, for all we know, they might actually do a rewrite and say that, Skull Island's just a reboot, and it's a new Kong, and it introduces a new Kong. It introduces a brand spanking new Kong, and he's going to go off and fight Godzilla. Now, this Kong would have to be big, because like I said, Godzilla's 300 feet tall, so I'd imagine Kong should at least be... I don't know, that's a really big ape. That is a really... And how do you explain that? How do you explain a 300-foot tall gorilla? I mean, yeah, a 25-foot gorilla, that takes some suspension of disbelief as it is. 300 feet? And again, before anyone asks, well, Godzilla's a 300-foot tall radioactive breathing monster. To which I say, yeah, you got me there, but on the other hand, I can say that in this continuity, Godzilla's a creature from a primordial world, The problem with, if you want to say, Kong can be that primordial creature too. The problem is that mammals hadn't really evolved at that point in where Godzilla's from. In that kind of era where they're trying to pass off this version of Godzilla in, mammals didn't evolve, and when they did, they were tiny. Mammals didn't really get much bigger until, when the dinosaurs died off. They didn't really get much bigger than that. So, therein lies the problem where you're trying to pass that off. So, there's a lot going against this. They could go the route of, we found Kong, and we just made him bigger, but then that would be... They're trying to make this realistic, so that's another reason. Look, I'm not saying this is a bad idea. Not in the slightest. I actually like King Kong versus Godzilla. It was a very, it's one of the first films I watched, and it was like, kind of made me the crossover guy, as I'm known as. So it's not that I hate this idea, I just feel like there's a lot working against it, you know what I mean? I just feel like, especially in Kong's favor. And again, of course you can say, oh, well, Kong was gigantic in the original Godzilla Kong movie, so why can't they do that again? Yeah, but in that one, Kong was still big, but he was still big enough to where you'd be like, okay, I can see that, and we're already living in a world of, space aliens and giant monsters. It is. This one's going for a realistic tone and wants to give them realistic origins, although I still don't know how they're going to do this. I have no idea how they're going to pull that off with King Ghidorah in the next film. Mothra and Rodan, you kind of get a pass, even though I don't know how they'll get around the magic element of Mothra. Rodan's pretty easy. King Ghidorah is the biggest one of how you're going to make that realistic and still, keep true to that character. That's the big thing right there. So, I don't know. Again, and that kind of applies to Kong because, what can you do? What can you honestly do? Would I like to see this movie? Like I said, would I like to see this movie happen? Absolutely. I'd love to see this movie, a remake and a very dark and, version of Godzilla and King Kong fighting. We're already having Superman and Batman fight. We're having Captain America and Iron Man fight. So, screw it. Let's have giant monsters fight. Two very well-known giant monsters fight. I think, it's kind of a given. Anyway. So I don't know really what else to say other than if it doesn't happen, oh well, at least we'll have Godzilla 2 and Skull Island. If it does happen, yay. I know a lot more people are more excited for a Pacific Rim Godzilla crossover. And honestly, I think that would be I think you could pass that off and make it work a lot more. So Godzilla and Pacific Rim would be a better pick, but if Godzilla vs. Kong happens at Legendary, then, by all means, okay, good. I'll be happy to watch it. Same thing with like Godzilla and Pacific Rim. If that finally crosses over, then yeah, I'll be happy to watch that as well. If it doesn't happen, then I've got Pacific Rim 2, I've got Skull Island, I've got Godzilla 2. Oh yeah, and I've got Godzilla over in Toho, which will be making movies again. Although, Higuchi, I watched Attack on Titan. You better bring your A-game, son. You better bring your A-game to that Godzilla film. Because that Attack on Titan movie, okay, I'm being mean here because the Attack on Titan movie was okay. I just feel like they were trying to do a lot, too much than they were. I think they're biting off more than they can chew, and maybe they'll work it out better in the second film that's coming out later today. So later this month. Why did I say day? Not month. Damn it. Next month. I know it's coming out in October, so hopefully I can only hope that it does better. So now I'm rambling at this point, but I didn't hate it. I didn't hate the Attack on Titan film is what I'm trying to say. I just felt like I was given, they bit off a lot more they could chew. So Higuchi, I hope, man, I'm hoping because you got a lot writing on this. That's all I'm going to say. But anyway, you guys tell me, what do you guys think of the potential of a Godzilla and Kong movie happening? Are you guys excited? Are you guys not excited? Just comment below, let me know what you guys thought, and once again, hope you all enjoyed this, and I will see you guys later.